I'd just like to say everything you see here is because of this man. And back in, when was it we met, Dean? 2018. I was pretty much sober by that, was I? Yes, I was sober. I was sober. And Dean was working here on this land as well. We were running BreakPoint, and we started doing some work together. I got Dean to start doing some events. And I knew Dean was amazing at his job. He was brilliant, but there was something that was holding him back, and I could see it in him. I could see myself in Dean, and I knew the journey that was ahead for him. And that was the drunken Dean that regardless of what he did, the good he did, he always took away the glory of that by his behaviour because of drink and other substances. And really, at the end of the day, it was the drink that was it was opening the door for all those bad habits and everything else. So anyway, we parted ways. It just wasn't going anywhere. We had to let Dean go on his own path. And then it was, what year was it? We got the email. I tell you, it's a good job you're here because of my Alzheimer's. 2022, I got an email through, which absolutely knocked me off my feet, and that was from Dean. And that was an email saying, Ollie, I just want to say sorry. I'm now sober. And as soon as I saw that, I knew once we got that stuff out of the way, the person that we loved and knew would be revealed. And that was the birth of this event. Dean wanted to really do something to help other people. And listen, this event isn't about you giving up alcohol. We strongly suggest it. I can tell you now, I wouldn't be doing this, Dean wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't have been on TV for the extent that I've been on TV and my business and everything else unless I'd managed to get control of that and pack it in years ago. But this is, I know people throughout January, you will have tried, some will have failed. And failure, let me tell you, failure is only when it stops you in the path towards your dreams. Failure is the best weapon you've got as long as you regard it really well, and that is, what did I do well, what didn't I do well, what am I going to do differently when I go for it next time? And success is a series of failures. If you're not failing, you're not working hard enough, or your problems aren't big enough. So I'd just like to say again, regardless of your journey through January, and we've had so many inspiring messages or people coming up and just telling us how amazing and how they want to carry on that journey. This event is not just here today. We've got people all over the world doing this virtually. We've got a live stream there feeding out to those people today. So give them a little wave. Let's have a little noise, come on! So anyway, listen, I can stand here waffling. I'm going to speak to you at the end. I'd just like to introduce our first speaker. And this is a guy I know and love, Paul Moore. Let's have a big round of applause. Paul Moore is an inspirational legend of a coach. He is a go-getter, someone that discovered sobriety not too long ago, and it has changed his life. Without further ado, big round of applause, Paul Moore.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so listen, in 2014, I found myself saying words that I never thought I would say. And those words were, no one would even care if I killed myself. Which is crazy, because at that time I was actually living in Marbella. I had 2 beautiful kids, hot wife, amazing car, 4-bedroom villa with a private pool. And I was living it, but I wasn't loving it. See, I'd sacrificed everything to get there. Like, I'd sacrificed my health. I was 5 stone overweight. I'd almost sacrificed my marriage. I had done that thing that everybody tells you to do. Do you know when people say cut all the negative people out of your life? Cut out all of the complainers? Well, what I've noticed is that people like complaining. So I'd cut everyone out, so much so that I was in Marbella and it was just me looking back at myself in the mirror, not liking what I saw. Hating everybody, hating myself, hating my life. And I got to that point where I stood on the edge of a cliff, ready to take my own life. And then my wife actually said some words that I will never forget, and that at this point has affected, I mean, I've worked with about 4,000 people since then. And my wife said, think about the kids. And if you've ever been this low, you'll know this. There's no logic, it's all emotion. I said, well, I am thinking about the kids. They'll be better off without me. And she said this, and at the time, me head melted when she said this. She said, well, think about the kids then growing up as those kids whose dad killed himself. And that was a big change for me. So that moment it was a big wake-up call, a massive wake-up call, and it led me on I knew something had to change. I had a successful business, but the rest of my life was, for want of a better word, fucked. I can't believe it's took me so long to say fuck. All right. That's the longest I've ever gone. You can tell I'm down south, innit? That's what it is. That's what it is. So that led me on this personal development journey. Now, the problem that I had with personal development was, it was all like live, laugh, love. You know what I'm saying? And I was not about the living, laughing, and loving. At that time, I was about the drinking, the sniffing, and the wanking. That was my bag. So I just didn't get it. I didn't get it. And during that journey, I mean, I've done a lot of mad shit. And I kind of figured out, the doctor used to always try and tell me, because also at that point I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So I was on all of the medication. I'd seen every type of ist. I'd have panic attacks. Once I got sedated on a flight, because I had this mad panic attack on the way to Chicago. That had knocked me out on the flight, no shit. I've had some mad things happen, but the doctor always used to try and tell me, what I realised is this: everyone bangs on the mental health drum. But what I've realised is that mental health needs physical support. Mental health needs physical support. No one ever talks about it. It's just talk. But talking doesn't change shit, in my opinion. It doesn't cook rice. And what I realised at that time was that if I keep putting diesel in a petrol engine and wondering why it won't start and wonder why it keeps breaking down, well, it's fucking obvious. There's another fuck, sorry. I'm just preparing you for Dapper, by the way. He doesn't say fuck, though, he says fuck. Fucking hell. So, sorry. So, that's all right. So, yeah, this mental health thing needs physical support. Now, the other thing I discovered was this concept of, and it's been done to death now, like a really good morning routine. There's loads of books written on it. You've got the Miracle Morning, you've got Win the Morning, Win the Day, you've got the 5 a.m. club. Fuck that, by the way. 5 a.m. club, come on. There's only one thing I'm doing at 5 a.m. and it's not that. So, people would have you convinced that in the mornings you have to get up and run a 10k and then get in the ice bath and then do your meditation and your incantations and your chants and look at yourself in the mirror and then shine your arsehole at the sun. Did you know about that one? Have you seen that one, the new morning routine thing where you shine your arsehole? You show your arsehole at the sun and you get loads of vitamin D? I haven't tried it, Ollie has. It was Ollie that told me about it, actually. But what I've realised that actually all that is in the mornings, like for me, it's one of the best parts of the day. So all I love to do in the morning is literally ice bath, bit of breathing, bit of meditation, bit of journaling, good to go. And I actually didn't stop drinking completely until 2021. So me and Dean are on a very similar trajectory. Actually, you quit the booze 2 days before me, right? And there's two things that I figured out with this boozing thing. People don't like it when you stop drinking. Have you noticed that? Yeah. People have always got some weird shit to say. It's like, it's unbelievable. So I believe that one of the superpowers that boozing allows you to cultivate, to build, is the ability to say no. Because that's all it is, really. No, no, no. So if I've got any advice for you on your journey on current, who's going to keep on this no booze wagon, by the way? Who's going to keep it up? Good. I think there's two key things. Yes, let's give them all a round of applause, by the way. Keep that shit up. It's unbelievable. Is that if I was going to give you two tips, it's one of them is try and surround yourself with people that are on a similar journey, because it's much easier when you haven't got people pecking at your ears. Ask them why you're not drinking. And where I'm from, by the way, in the northeast, it's what people do. They love to get pissed. In fact, when I said I wasn't drinking, people like question me sexuality and that. I'm married with 2 kids. My name's not Philip Schofield. Like, I'm just not drinking. Like, literally, legit. Because I'm not boozing. And the second thing is this: is I believe the biggest challenge that I had with my beliefs around boozing was that I thought it would be boring. But actually, what I realised was that if I had to drink every weekend, my life was fucking boring. My life was boring if I had to drink every weekend. So my number one tip for you, if you're going to keep it up, is just create a life that just doesn't have room for it. Like now, I can't imagine anything worse than sitting in someone's kitchen, chatting absolute shit, sniffing Santa's eyebrows. Like I don't, like, that's just not for, that life's not for me anymore. I can't imagine anything worse. So listen, I hope that was useful. Thank you so much for paying me attention, laughing at me jokes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Paul. Thank you for that. Thank you. And I'd just like to say, I mean, You had to get on a flight to get here today. I was waiting for that Instagram, the WhatsApp message saying, oh, I can't make it, blah, blah, blah. So thank you, well done, mate. Woo! All the way from the ice wall. Beyond the wall. Beyond the wall. So my next guest is someone that is a very good friend of mine and was on a very popular show out there, just like SAS. Love Island. Whoa! My next guest is Scott Thomas. This side.
You're standing on this side to get some height, aren't you?
I am, mate. I'm going to stand on here. So, Scott, me and you have actually been speaking quite often recently, haven't we? And it's been amazing to see your journey from start to finish. You know, I started seeing you on Instagram. I don't know if, actually, that's how we first met, because there was that Pickstar, wasn't it?
That's right.
That's how we met. It was an app anyway, all this, that and the other. And I didn't realise that you were you drinking at that point?
I probably was. I was probably a little bit confused at the time.
Yeah.
So I went sober in 2020 for a year, and then I decided I didn't want to be the boring sober guy.
Sorry, here you go.
Sorry, can you hear me? You probably don't need a mic with me. Yeah, so basically I went sober in 2020 after hitting rock bottom. And my rock bottom might not be as bad as maybe somebody else's, but for me, one of my biggest values is success and reaching my potential. And all my life I was a professional party boy. So for 10 years I threw parties for a living, and it was glamorised. I was the ultimate animal party boy, the Scotty Special. That was my nickname, my alter ego. And it paid me for a long time, and it got me a lot of popularity and everything else. But as I got older and moved into business and everything else, I couldn't get on top of my all or nothing mentality when it came to alcohol. And I wouldn't drink often, but I could not drink for a month or even 6 weeks. But when I did drink, I was lethal. To the point, no word of a lie, I'd still be out now. Like, I'd go out on Friday night and could still be going now. Because it just opened up a gateway for me for absolute carnage. And I'd like to think I'm quite a nice, humble guy. But when I was drunk, I was unfiltered. I was nasty. Not nasty, I had no filter. And I would wake up the next day in tears because I would upset so many people around me. I'd self-sabotage my own business. I got escorted out some of my biggest client events. And that was one of the biggest turning points for me, where I decided that success and reaching my potential and being a nice person meant more to me than alcohol. Sorry.
One thing I'd like to say, because all these people, especially like all of the speakers, a lot of the speakers for sure, like especially Paul Moore, like yourself. And one thing for me was the fact that I was scared of I didn't know who I was. I didn't know the reality of who I was. My identity was alcohol. You know what I mean? Everyone knew me through that sort of gateway. To me, it was alcohol. So what would you say? There must have been a massive, your life was all about throwing events, wasn't it? Your business was about throwing events, drinking, big parties, all this kind of stuff. So what was it that made you turn, and what happened? Were you nervous about going into that? Were they like, you thought, I'm going to have no friends? How did that work?
I think that's the scariest thing about sobriety. And by the way, sobriety is not easy, guys. So let's not just make it like glamorize it. It's not easy because you have to spend a lot of time with yourself, right? Don't get me wrong. It's amazing the growth that happens and everything else. But I didn't know who I was. I was who everybody else wanted me to be. I was the Scotty Special. When I'd turn up, I would be the guy who could get everybody going and everything else. But in deep down, that wasn't even really who I was. Like, I'm quite a shy guy. I'm a little bit. I can be kind of an extrovert, but I'm also an introvert as well. And I felt like I always had to be the extrovert, where in actual fact, now I'm just cool with being me. Like, the fact that I'm on the mic now talking like this is just beyond like the old Scott. I'd have to be drunk everywhere I went, every social event I went into, I had to be drunk before I got there because it was a mask. I didn't know who I was, whereas now I'm putting the work into understanding who I am, and there's no better feeling. Don't get me wrong, like I said, it's not easy, but over time you feel stronger. And I can go out now. I can't stay past probably, I think like 1:30 a.m. is probably my cut-off point because everyone else gets a little bit wavy. But I can go out now and just own it. And to be fair, a lot of people always say to me like, are you not, like at first, I think the biggest difference with me is as soon as I hit 6 months, I put it out there and I owned it because I knew that this story would help a lot of people. And because I owned sobriety from the moment I did it, no one's really questioned me. Does that make sense? Like, people have seen going, shit, look how much better he looks. Wow, he got in great shape. His skin's amazing. His businesses are thriving. So the fact that I owned it, when I go out now, no one really that says to me, Scott, why are you not drinking? They actually look at me and all going, wow, I want a bit of that. Like a lot of people do, because, so my biggest advice to anybody who's going sober is weird as it sounds, is like, own it, put it out there to the universe. And I think a lot of people will respect you for it. I think at first it's difficult if you think like, because they will sense your weakness, they will sense that you don't really mean it, that you don't really want it, and they'll try and twist your arm. But if you walk out and go, no, I'm sober because I want to make myself feel better, I want to feel good about myself, I want to reach my goals, I want to smash business, I want to do this, how can you argue with that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, mate. Well, let's have a round of applause to Scott. Thank you very much, mate. It's a pleasure to have you here, as it is everyone. The next guest that I'd like to introduce you to is someone else who is well, like I say, I know we're all busy, but someone that's actually on the road at the moment doing a tour. So for him to break away from that and being able to get authority from his wife is incredible. But I'd like to have a big round of applause for Dapper Laughs. Woo! Dan Riley.
Yeah. Make it sound like I'm under the thumb. Fucking hell. Well, I think I'm going to be all right now because you've already covered wanking and sniffing lines. I was worried about what I could talk about. So, midget porn. No, I'm joking. I've got to get out of comedy mode because, yeah, I'm on tour. But listen, I went sober, man, because I didn't think I had a problem. I didn't think I had a problem because I'm just one of the lads, right? So I was drinking and doing drugs and stuff like that. It was part of my culture growing up with the boys at the weekend. I didn't realise, and I think this happens to some of us, that, and you know, people always say to me, when did you realise you had a problem? Well, I realised I had a problem a lot further along than when I should have realised, right? Because you don't realise it, but sitting up on your own sniffing gear or drinking and stuff like that, you know you got a problem, right? Or I always thought that an alcoholic was defined by someone that woke up in the morning and reached for a bottle of vodka, right? Or, you know, you saw him sat on a park bench, or like a homeless person. That was an alcoholic to me. I didn't realise, and I've learned since, that it doesn't have to be you know, the frequency of your drinking. It can be what happens when you drink, you know. So like you were saying, I could leave it a week, but if I drank, once I drank, mate, everything I do was in excess. I can see it now. If I was drinking everything. If I was sniffing, I was doing the whole packet. If I'm doing comedy, I'm getting fucking cancelled. Do you know what I mean? I've got that mentality, and I think some of us are built with it. And the turning point for me, I think, was when my drinking went from sociably drinking till, you know, if you drink to escape a little bit and something goes wrong in your life, like for me, I think it was around when my father passed away. I got cancelled off TV and everything like that, which was bad. My father passed away, and that's when it's kind of changed for me. I was drinking to cope with life, drinking to escape life, drinking on my own. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather be drunk than be me. And then I suddenly realised that every time something went right, I was so excited I'd drink. But if something went wrong, I was so annoyed that I'd drink. And then in general, if it was just like Tuesday, I was drinking. Do you know what I mean? It was like all the time. And I decided to go sober for other people in my life because I got a missus that was nagging me and having a go at me because I was always out getting drunk. And but I still didn't think I had a problem. And then it come to Christmas on my first sort of go at sobriety, and I was bored, and I thought, do you know what, I'm going to go back to the beers, because I was around the wrong people. My mates were like, come on, my stag do was coming up, and I just couldn't see sobriety as something positive. And I thought, I'll just come back to the drink, not the gear, nothing else, I'll just have a couple. And as soon as I started drinking again, it went west for me really fast, and it was terrifying, because I was like, wow, I really have got a problem, I can't control this. And not just that, I knew I had to go sober again, so I just tried to consume as much of it as I could really quickly. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, this is mental, I'm completely an addict. And that was a massive turning point for me. So that's when I decided to go sober. And I also decided that I was gonna publicly go sober, you know, because I'm a content creator, it's what I do, I share my life online. And it was the hardest but biggest and the hardest decision I ever made, but the one that I'm most proud of to this day was documenting my first year of sobriety. I made a pledge that I would do a podcast every week with many of the people that are here actually, with experts in the industry to learn everything I could about sobriety. You know, authors, doctors, nurses, blah, whatever, everyone. And I've done it every week. And by doing that, I shared it with my audience. And there were so many lads out there, and women, but majority, because I'm a lad's lad, that could resonate with what I was doing. And I see them on tour now. They come and talk to me and say that they're sober. But the biggest thing that I learned through the sobriety was learning to get to know myself again, man, because I didn't know who I was. Every time something in my life got a little bit too stressful or an emotion came up in me that I didn't like, I used to drink to suppress it. And that was the hardest part of sobriety. So anyone that's starting their sobriety journey or on their sobriety journey, one of the most difficult things is not being able to escape yourself, not being able to escape the feelings that you don't like. It's so hard. And that's why at the beginning of sobriety, you start thinking about all the stuff that you've done wrong and all the people that you upset and the situations you messed up and everything you got wrong. And you can't escape it because you can't drink because you're sober. And it's such a vicious circle. But if you can get past that stage and then you start liking yourself again, this amazing thing happens, right? You stop people pleasing, because I was terrible at people pleasing, going around saying, you know, yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir, because I wanted everyone else to like me, because I hated myself, right? But now I don't people please. I do love myself again, and I'm really enjoying it. And also, I feel proud of myself now, which is a really weird feeling, because I used to go week to week of just being like, oh, I've done a bit of work, I'm making a bit of money, everything's all right, and then I'll do something and I'll be like, oh, I'm a twat, I'm still a twat, you know? But now I'm like, it's just a compounding effect of good things. And I think that we all live in a world where we determine success with money, house, car, business, followers, whatever. That's how you determine success. And some of these things are so out of reach for us, you know, especially with the way the world is today, that we live in constant disappointment, right? Because we can't grab the things that we want to make us feel good. But if you, and this is what I've done, if you can swap the things that make you feel good to things that are like within your reach. So for instance, I know if I get up in the morning and I go boxing, or if I do my run or whatever, and I've got that little win in, I'm like, fuck it, I feel good. And those little wins just seem to build up. And I'm at a really weird place now where I like my life. And it took me like 10 years. My last tour got cancelled 10 years ago, right? And I lost my TV show and everything. And for years I was trying to claw it back and claw it back and claw it back. And like for 9 years, I couldn't get it. No one would book me or anything. And then I went sober. And then all these beautiful things started falling into place. Like, it was like I didn't deserve it. It's like it wasn't ready for me. I was taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And I'm very aware of how beautiful sobriety is for me, because, like, I wouldn't be able to go and do a show and then do another show the next day, because I would have done a show, come off and gone, fucking, I'm so funny, and then sniff loads of gear. And then the next show would have been crap, right? So it's just, there's so many different ways that it's good for me. And I just want to share the fact that anyone here that is looking at sobriety, when I talk about serious things, I get a little bit nervous because I'm normally messing around. But the main thing that I want to say is, anyone that is looking at sobriety, that's, because I spoke to a few of you here that were like, well, I'm just kind of doing dry Jan, but, you know, life is, you know, I do drink a lot and there's a lot of problems, but I'm just trying dry Jan, and that you're still not sure about sobriety, but you know, I've spoken to a few people that know it's not right for them, that they can't drink without causing havoc in their lives. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, if you're looking at sobriety with fear, yeah, and you're not sure whether to jump, if the pure fact that you're even thinking that means you've got to jump and you've got to do it. And I promise you, it'll be the best thing ever. And if you're worried that it would change you, like I was worried that it wouldn't make me, you know, I wouldn't be as funny or as good looking. I'm better looking and funnier. So you can take that however you like. But I just want to say that I love being part of things like this, and I hope you have me back to the next one, and good luck on your journey, whatever it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. That was great. The thing is, as well, you've got all this social pressure as well, and if there's one man that I know that really had that identity, you know, being a lad's lad, drinking, and that was really his identity, for him to take the courage, and courage is the moment you step into anything without needing a guarantee of a successful outcome. That's the man that's done it. So, well done, mate. And anyone that doesn't follow his Instagram account and wants a bit of humour in their life, you need to. The wife cancelling headphones just blew my mind. It was brilliant. Where can I get a set of them, mate? So anyway, listen. I mean, previous wife. Right. Where do we go from here? Taxi. Taxi. Right. I think really when you want to do anything that's a significant change, BreakPoint is the moment that you, it's a disruptive change in habitual behaviour in line with a predetermined goal. But to really go into that discomfort, you have to understand why you're doing it. You have to put some substance and value and assign meaning to the discomfort you're going to go through. And if there's one person that's explained that extremely well, it's his pseudonym, but William Porter. He's got a book called Alcohol Explained. Has anyone read that book here? Right, look at that. You've got so many new customers. If you haven't got that and you are considering, you want to really start to understand how alcohol really affects your system, your mind and body, this is the book that does it. And if you need some extra motivation, honestly, start looking at the facts, because it is a drug. It is a drug. And listen, I used to say I'm not here to demonise drink, but I am. I absolutely am. It keeps you small. If you want to stay small, keep drinking. Honestly, even little bits of drink and this, that and the other, your aim should be to cut it out. Because once you do, like all the speakers have said, it changes your life. You start to expand. So just think about that. But anyway, listen, I'd like to have a big round of applause for the author of Alcohol Explained and Alcohol Explained 2. There's 2 books. William Porter. And listen, I'd just like to say that what happened, I can tell you just a general view of William's story. What happened is he actually signed up and joined the parachute regiment, and then he realised he should have joined the Royal Marines, and then he just started drinking and he couldn't control it. So anyway, we live and learn, don't we?
Of course. Hello everyone, so I'm William Porter, author of Alcohol Explained. I think most people haven't read it, so just very briefly, Alcohol Explained really, it was about me trying to explain what alcohol does. I tried to be really factual, dispassionate, like Ollie said, tried not to demonise it, it's hard not to, but I tried to really get under the skin of what alcohol is, what it does to us, why we keep reaching for it, how it churns from being experimental to fun to necessary. There's a million topics I could talk about. The obvious one that I will talk about now is fitness. Okay, you've all turned up, you've done the 5 or 10K, fantastic, well done everyone. So what I'm going to do is just take 5 or 10 minutes of your time to give you a real nuts and bolts view of what alcohol does to your fitness. I know people have tried dry January, some still doing it, some not doing it, some thinking of going back. What Alcohol Explained is, it's information. I give you the information, you go away and do what you want with it. Okay, so at its very basic, and this is the starting point for all of it, alcohol is a sedative, okay, it's a depressant. And when I use the word depressant, I'm using it in its chemical sense as something that decreases or inhibits nerve activity. Okay, so it makes you feel relaxed, it makes you feel dulled, it makes you feel intoxicated. The other class of drugs you have are stimulants, right? They're the things that wake you up, make you feel more alert. Okay, so that's why when you take a drink of alcohol, you can feel more relaxed. If you drink too much of it, you get intoxicated. Because I think most people are probably on board with that. Where things start to get slightly more interesting is when we look at the physiological effect, which means how the human body, and in particular the brain, reacts to it. Because the human brain creates and excretes a huge array of its own naturally occurring chemicals, drugs and hormones. Okay, so things you would have heard of, adrenaline, endorphins, all of that stuff, your brain creates it and excretes it in exactly the right quantities and exactly the right time to make you feel good. There's a huge amount we humans don't understand about the process, but what we do know is your brain works by way of something called homeostasis, which is basically a balance of all these different chemicals, drugs and hormones, right? So how I sometimes think of it, you know those old-fashioned weighing scales where you've got like a bar and then a basket at each side, right? This is hugely oversimplified. If there's any brain scientists out there, you're going to be blanching at how ridiculous this is. But imagine on the one hand you've got your sedatives, and on the other hand you've got your stimulants, and they're all nicely balanced. When you drink alcohol, because it's a sedative, you're putting a whole massive amount on the depressant side. So your brain realises there's a problem here and it counters it. It does it in lots of different ways, but it puts a load on the stimulant side to try and balance things up. It releases a load of adrenaline, which you've heard of. It releases cortisol, which is a stress hormone, okay? So as soon as you take a drink of alcohol, your brain is countering the sedating effects of the alcohol by releasing these stimulants. One of the things the stimulants do is increase your heart rate, okay? If anyone out there is drinking and has a Fitbit or a Garmin, if you look at your heart rate, when you drink alcohol, it goes through the roof. You don't even really need that. I mean, I was drinking before I had a Fitbit. You know, when you wake up at 3 in the morning and your heart's going really, really fast. That's the effect of the stimulants, right? So put that to one side now. Let's have a look at how that affects fitness, okay? When your heart rate increases, you feel tired and you want to sit down. Okay, that is a simple fact. That's why exercise is difficult. But that's why when you're out there doing your 10K, you're getting increasingly tired. Your heart's going fast and your brain's saying, stop, slow down. Okay, so when you drink alcohol, you're immediately robbing yourself of energy the next day because your heart rate has gone up. Now, the other thing that it does is it erodes your fitness. Now, this is quite an interesting one. If you stop and you think you've got someone really fit and someone really unfit, any idea what the physical difference is between the two? One of the big things is it's blood composition. So very, very simply, when you exercise, your muscles need oxygen. And the oxygen gets to your muscles because you breathe it into your lungs, it goes into your blood supply. There's red blood vessels which carry the oxygen around your body. Okay, so the more you're using your muscles, the more your heart's beating to get the oxygen around. But your body is a great adapter. So if you do it regularly, there's two very important changes to your blood composition. One, the age of the red blood cells drops. Your body takes the blood cells out of circulation much earlier and produces new ones. Why that is important is because younger blood cells carry more oxygen. The second change is that your body creates more red blood cells, so you've got a greater concentration of red blood cells in your blood. So the bottom line is, if you increase your heart rate with physical activity, your blood becomes more oxygen rich. So you can exercise to a higher and higher degree, okay? If you increase your heart rate without associated physical activity, you do the opposite. You become unfit. So if I'm sat here now and my heart rate is 60, right? I'm doing no physical exercise, my muscles are getting all the oxygen they need, and I have a cigarette or I have a drink and my heart rate goes up, what happens? There's too much oxygen, so your body reverses the process. The average age of the blood cells gets older and it reduces the concentration. That is why there's a huge correlation between drinking and heart disease, heart attacks. Okay? So when you drink alcohol, it does two things, and this, unfortunately, whether you drink a massive amount or a small amount, it has the same effect. Obviously, the more you drink, the worse it is, but even small amounts have exactly the same effect. In the short term, they rob you of energy, and in the long term, they rob you of fitness and cause you cardiovascular problems. Okay? The question out there then, because whenever I get to this stage, I quite often get asked this, But a glass of red wine is good for you, isn't it? We all know that. You know, if you just moderate, you just have a glass of red wine here and there, it's really good for you. No, it isn't. Okay, alcohol is a class 1 carcinogen. The World Health Organization, the medical branch of it, classifies carcinogens in order of how dangerous they are. Alcohol is a class 1 carcinogen in the same group as radiation, cigarette smoking and asbestos. Okay, it is not good for you, and I'm here to tell you now there are 0 health benefits to drinking. When you read these studies that say this amount of alcohol is good for you or that amount of alcohol is good for you, it is not the alcohol. It's something else in the drink. So they'll say, well, red wine has got flavonols or antioxidants. It is not the alcohol. So start in your mind to think of it. Instead of thinking a glass of red wine is good for you, what you've got in a glass of red wine is grape juice and alcohol, right? The grape juice is good for you, the alcohol isn't. If you want the benefits of a glass of red wine, eat some grapes. And in fact, it's even worse than that, because if you take grape juice, it's good for you, it's got things like vitamin C in it, but the fermentation process actually destroys a lot of the nutrients. So grape juice is very high in vitamin C. Wine has got 0 vitamin C in it. Now, the final point I just want to make here, because you do hear this quite often, there's an odd correlation between drinking and how long you live. So if people are drinking huge amounts of alcohol, they die young. If they're drinking slightly less, they die a bit younger, a bit older. So it gets better and better. But there's a weird curve, because what you find is people who abstain completely don't live as long as those who moderate. So what you quite often hear is, oh yeah, okay, I get all that, but there must be something in it, because if you look at a population of people who abstain, their average life expectancy is lower than people who moderate. And this is often presented as evidence that actually moderate drinking is good for you. But when you dive into it, there's a few good reasons for that. 87% of the population drink. Ordinarily, you need a reason not to, and historically, the reasons for not drinking so historically the reasons for not drinking, there's a few of them. 1, previous chronic alcohol dependency. 2, other drug dependencies. 3, other health issues. If people are ill, they tend not to drink alcohol. 4, incarceration. It's hard to get alcohol in prison. And 5, lack of money. So people who are actually on the breadline. And those are the reasons that they have the reduced life expectancy. And actually we're seeing that differential decreasing over time as more and more people are giving up alcohol, not because they're chronically alcohol dependent, but because of a simple healthy lifestyle choice. Okay, so I hope that's a bit of information. As I say, that's what Alcohol Explained is about really. It's just about giving you a bit of information, take away, do with it what you will. Hope you found it interesting.
Round of applause, thank you very much. William Porter, and please, honestly, if you want to study more about the negative effects of alcohol, do get that book. If you know someone else that's struggling and they need a bit of motivation as to why to get that book, because it's incredible. I think it was amazing. One thing that I found out, that I always thought that it was the alcohol that made, well, the idiot juice that gave you the energy and everything around people, and it's not. It's actually your body, the chemicals released, which is attacking the stimulant, which is alcohol, the depressing stimulant that is alcohol. So anyway, some amazing facts in that book. I would just like to have a big round of applause. We're almost there, so we're going to let you go home soon, but please stick around. We've got a couple more speakers. And I would like to have a round of applause for this lady, Laura, who has been sober for 11 years. Is it, Laura?
2 weeks, yeah.
Lauren, it's the same thing. Same thing, Lauren. Lauren has been sober for 11 years. So really, this is from the perspective of someone that in their sort of younger years that have decided to get alcohol out of their life. And now she's made it a mission to change as many lives as possible. So a big round of applause, please. Lauren.
Hey guys, hope you're well. I'm a little bit muddy, so I'm just walking around a little bit like kind of, you know. In 2 weeks, I'm going to be 11 years sober. So I went to rehab when I was 18 years old. To go into rehab at 18 was one of the most scariest things I've ever done in my life. To look around me and think that I was the only person, you know, that was going through that at the time and justifying it in many ways, because there were people worse than me, there were people that, you know, were doing twice as much drugs as me. But what I didn't realise was that I had my whole life ahead of me when I went in and changed my life around. From a very, very young age, I always felt less than. I always felt that, you know, I had so much pressure. I always felt not good enough. I always felt that I had this whole fear in my life. And drinking just took away all of that fear. Drinking made me feel that I didn't have to feel. And when I started drinking very young. I was like 12, 13 years old. I, you know, didn't realise that it was a problem. And like, you know, Dapper said, I thought that it was a whiskey drinking a bar bench. I thought there was a heroin addict beside the street, and I was this young girl that was 18 years old going through this battle. But what I didn't realise that it wasn't about how much I was drinking. It was about how it made me feel. And it made me feel very, very, very lost. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror by the end of the day. I was making a lot of mistakes. I was, you know, doing a lot of other things. Like, it led me to an eating disorder, bulimia. It led me to being in toxic relationships with guys. It led me to, you know, not wanting to look at myself. And I was very lucky. I had 2 family members that were in recovery. So I got introduced to recovery and getting sober very young, and their stuff is alcoholism. And I remember looking at them and going, and this is the thing, it's like, I saw them get sober and change their life around, and I was like, I want what they have, because I was in such a bad place. And I did that, and they said to me, you need to go into rehab. And, you know, those 11 years that I've been sober have been the best 11 years of my life. You know, I started working with the Amy Winehouse Foundation at 18, 19 years old, going into schools and doing talks. I moved to Hong Kong, doing it out there as well. Going into private schools and doing talks, mainly helping educate people to understand that it's not about, you know, drinking, it's not about partying, it's not about, you know, doing all these things. It's about finding what works for you and makes you happy. Because what I was doing was not making me happy. And I realised that I was on autopilot. How many of us wake up every day and we don't check in with ourselves? We don't ask ourselves how we are. We don't, you know, really ask ourselves what we need. And that's what I was doing for many years. I lost my identity so much to the point where I actually didn't know who I was. My 5 years sobriety for me was my self-discovery moment. For me, it's all about self-discovery. It's all about going back to your childhood and understanding where you want to be in this world. I found my purpose by speaking very young. I wanted to help people. I wanted to inspire people. I wanted to make people realise that you have a choice today. You have a choice today if you want to drink. You have a choice today if you don't want to drink. But you also have a choice today whether you want to do those things or not. And London and England are very big places where it's the expectation to drink. There's no expectation. It's your choice. So when I speak to people that want to get sober, you know, I'm 30 years old. I go out clubbing, kind of like Scott does. I go out clubbing, I go partying till 5, 6 in the morning. I do it now. But I kind of have that opinion of, it is me. I get to do what I want to do. But when people come up to me and they're like, how do you do it? How do you go out and have fun and be sober? I say, because I built up a confidence in myself to be able to go out and have fun. Because that is my authentic self. I don't need a drink to have fun. But also, I get to connect with people on a level where it's not someone that's drunk and not someone that's, you know, not really themselves. It's actually a connection between that person. And it's an incredible, incredible journey. If anyone's on that journey, I would say carrying it on, try it. But if you're not on that journey of just going sober forever, just take that time out, have those times where you kind of are like, okay, I'm drinking, you know, to get drunk. Is it making me happy? Ask yourself how much you're drinking. You know, is it you know, something that is making you feel good in the long run, you know, and is it benefiting you? And because for me, it wasn't benefiting me. It was leading to me some dark places. And it is a superpower. It's completely changed my life since I've been sober. It's honestly the best thing I've ever done. And I fully recommend people do it, because I can wake up now and I can be me. And I can be happy for being me. So I am grateful to be here, and I'm so happy that the people are becoming more aware of what they're doing in their lives now, and more aware of what they're putting in their bodies. So yeah.
Well done, Lauren. That was amazing. Thank you very much. And listen, these guys, everyone that's spoken today, we are going to put their links and everything in an email. You can follow them on Instagram and do whatever, but they're, as you can see, they're extremely inspiring and can be that thing that really gives you that motivation to make those changes. My next guest is someone that I've known for a few years now that's doing some amazing things in this space. I've done a few podcasts with him, and he's again dedicated his life to coaching people through to a better life, and obviously that is with the deletion of alcohol. Sober Dave.
Wow, I'm on last.
No,
I said to William Porter, because we've got to think about public speaking, I said, "You're on last, mate," and it's me, and I'm not. Anyway, I thought I'd actually maybe talk a little bit about my journey as well, because I'm, as you see by my hair, from a slightly different era. And I was the old school where you could go in a pub and not show ID. I started drinking when I was 14, usual old thing. And a lot of it was through lack of confidence. I'd moved house, my mum had left home, left me a note, and shortly after that my dad met someone and I felt really kind of rejected, you know. And then I had a knock on the door one night, and it's a few of the Herberts from school saying, "You're going to come up the shops." And I said, "Why not? There's nothing to lose." And I was never really a fighter, you know. And they used to fight all the local schools, and I didn't know what I was getting myself in for, really. But they went to the offie, found some money down the old sofa from their parents' house and that, and give it to the adults outside the offie and say, "Can you get some beers?" And that first beer was the one that I thought, do you know what? There's the magic tablet there. I feel confident. I feel like I'm accepted by everyone. And also I was funny. I made them laugh, and that's why I fitted in with all these lads, you know. And I was really sporty, so I worked hard, played hard, you know, going through my teens and 20s. And going towards my late 20s, I started going to a little local pub. And it was, I was in the carpet game, and I was around the public bar, and everyone took me in, and it's like Glugsy, because I would have like loads of beer really quickly, and I think it's my social anxiety. So I soon got a reputation as being a big, massive drinker, and that became my identity, you know, of being the lad who would make everyone laugh. I didn't know who I was, and I ended up staying in there like longer than I should have done. And then I would do like an all-day shift on a Sunday, and then gradually people started to say to me, "Are you all right, mate? Like, you're in here a lot lately. You're an alcoholic." And I'm really sensitive, right? And it like really hit me hard. It's like, God, what has happened to me, right? But what that did, I started to go over the off-licence over the road and buy the old takeaway. You know, and I would go home and I would start drinking indoors. And this is where it changed massively, because I really liked it, because no one judged me, no one saw what I was drinking. And I could get blind drunk and just wake up and start drinking again. And then I went through my 30s and the string of cock-up relationships and bad decisions, and I was just about managing work. And I moved to a place which was away from the pub when I was 40. And I looked at myself and I thought, what am I doing with my life? Like, what am I doing? But I stopped socialising then, because I got really depressed. I also put on a lot of weight and my health was really bad. I stopped doing sport. and I started drinking more and more and more indoors. And I put on a load of weight. I was 20 stone. I went to the doctors and I had terrible blood pressure. My cholesterol was really high. I had acid reflux. But I did the infamous thing at Google, what alcohol has the least calories in? And that changed everything for me, because that popped vodka and I thought, that'd do. And I bought half a bottle of vodka and that lasted literally 10 minutes because I was glugs. So I started drinking a bottle, and I'll go for a bottle in a couple of hours, and then that led to a litre. And I was, in the end, drinking a litre of vodka a night at home on my own. My neighbours were really sociable. They used to say, Dave, we've got a party Saturday night, come in. I say, no, I'm going out, I'm busy. And I used to literally sit there on my own in the dark with my phone torch, looking at the glass. I wouldn't pour it over the top, and sit there all night getting absolutely blotto. And it got to a point that I didn't really care if I lived or died. And I went to the doctors and was on these antidepressants and that, and they didn't work because obviously I was drinking ridiculous amounts. And I went back, and to be honest, he didn't really query my relationship with alcohol either. He didn't say to me, are you drinking, what's that like? It was like, just, oh, here's your antidepressants and that. And I had them doubled to 100 milligrams. And I had a big row at home in that, and I ended up getting in the van and going down to Eastbourne, and it was a free ticket for me to go mad. And I just went on a 4 or 5 day bender, which I could have easily have died. I was like 16, 17 pints in a Witherspoons, bottle of vodka from the co-op, sleep on the beach 4 or 5 nights. I don't know how I survived that. I could have been murdered, I could have had a heart attack. And I got home, and this was in 2018. And I just kept saying to myself, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? Who have I become? I look in the mirror and I'd say, I fucking hate you. What, who are you? I'd completely lost my identity. And that year my mum died, and everything went wrong that year. And I went for Christmas, and I looked at a photograph of me at Christmas by the Christmas tree, and I was like looking at a stranger. Like, I had no idea what I was looking at. This 20 stone man with a bloated face who had just become this complete animal with drinking. And it got to January 2019, and off the back of another hangover on a Monday morning, I was driving through Wimbledon, and my text message went from a friend, a really good friend. And I looked at it and it said, how do you fancy joining me for 3 months to give drinking a break? And I just burst out laughing, because I thought, I can't even do 3 days. Like, what are you talking about? Do you not know who I am in that? And I think he didn't really know who I was, because I used to hide my drinking a lot. But what happened there was I started to wonder, to think. I wonder how my life would change in 3 months' time. And I started to visualise it, and I started to get the flavour of a life without the mess I got myself in. And I pulled over in a lay-by in Wimbledon, and I texted him back and I said to him, are you in? And he said, I am in. And he's never in. And it was almost like I had a window of 12 hours from the time he texted me to me going to see him. And I went round to see him, and ironically, he was like Foxy. He's a spitting image of Foxy, and he was just standing there like that. And it was like the universe said, go for it, go for it. And I shook his hand. I said, let's go. And that night, a neighbour said, oh, the football's on, Dave. Do you want to have a few beers? Don't drink anymore. It was it, I made my mind up. And I exercised, trained to do a London to Paris that year, London, Brighton. Lost weight. I was on 4 different medications. I stopped my blood pressure tablets. My blood pressure went down within a month. I started losing weight. I started feeling positive. I started looking at life slightly differently. I found a community, which was really important. Ironically, Alcohol Change was one of the first websites that I Googled. and I researched things and I educated myself and I learned about alcohol. And one of the first groups that I went to, I met William Porter, and he was standing there, and I said, like, mate, what you do is fantastic. And I was like a newbie. I'd been sober for like 2-3 weeks or something. I didn't know anything about it. But what I did, I made it non-negotiable. I thought, I've got to give this 3 months a go, otherwise I'm going to be doing the same thing, and then I'll end up dying. You know, and I've got a son of 30, like Lauren's 30, and it's like, how would he feel if his, you know, he would say, oh, my dad died of alcoholism and that, and it kept me going. And I found a community, met people that have been through the same as me. One day I come out the bath and I thought, do you know what, I'm going to do a podcast. Randomly, out the blue. I had no idea how to do it, bought a bit of gear, recorded the first one, and it went to number 3 in the Apple charts, like straight away, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, it was sharing people's stories, you know. And another thing was that I used to say down the pub, write a book about this one day, like all my antics and that. Yeah, I wrote a book. And, you know, but the main thing is that now I have a life back, and I try to share my story with people and say it's not, as Lauren said, it's not about the amount you drink, it's how it makes you feel. You know, there's people that might go a week without drinking, they might have 2 or 3 on a Saturday night, but they can't sleep properly, or they're a bit snappy with their kids, or they wake up Monday morning feeling crap, you know. If there's just one thing, it's like, if you think you've got a slight problem with your drinking, just give it a go. Like, if you're doing dry January, just give another week in February to see how you go. Make it non-negotiable, get the flavour, try and visualise life without it, because I've just celebrated 5 years of sobriety, and, you know, thank you, and, you know, I'm 60 this year, and I don't think I would be here if I hadn't stopped. And I like to encourage people of all ages that you can change your life. And I was saying to Ollie earlier, running around here this morning in this beautiful environment and meeting all you lovely people is something I wouldn't have done before. I would have laid in bed feeling shit, waiting for my next drink. And you see life in full HD. You meet amazing people and you're positive, and just life looks really, really good now. So that's it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
An amazing story there, and listen, we're almost there, and I want to start to wrap this up now. I would like to share the stage, if you call it that, share the stage with a good friend I do a lot of work with. We've done a couple of talks together. We actually did an event here not too long ago, and that is Mr. Mark Whittle. With his white shoes. Come on, over here, mate, over here. Now, really, like I said, we want to close this off. Now, a lot of people do know my story. I've been very vocal about that. I've written books about it, so I'm not going to delve too much into that. But one thing I'll say is a lot of people, I did mention this dry January wasn't just about people that had done dry January, because I know a lot of people out there, and we've been speaking to a lot of people that will have got a couple of weeks in, or not even that far, and then had a drink. And then what you do, this is what you do, right? You then start to criticize, you then start to self-criticize. That is your acceptance speech for failure. That allows you to throw in the towel. And that really should not be how you start 2024. You know, at the end of the day, like I said before, failure is something you need to embrace. You need to learn from it, you need to get back on the horse and keep on moving forward. Don't allow your failures to define who you are. You learn from them. I'd also like to say, when it comes to giving up something, I'd like to say that it should not be a date that decides when you start. It should be a decision. A date is external, and this is what people do. I actually think that January is the worst time to start anything. The 1st of Jan is the worst time to start anything, because a lot of people, especially if you've been quite abusive, because human nature just goes, I'll tell you what, well, I'm stopping in January, so I'm going to drink even more. I'm going to get my quota in so that I've got enough to last all the way through January. And then what basically happens, you don't put any thought into it, you've got no emotional attachment to it. The 1st of Jan comes and you're supposed to be this new person. You haven't made a decision. You've defined it by a date. When you make a decision, you come up with the why. You look into all the information, the reason, all the content that's in books like Alcohol Explained. You get yourself a coach, you get yourself a mentor. And I tell you now, anyone out there that reckons they've got all the answers is no one you need to be following. You know what I mean? You never have the answers. Also, your potential is infinite. But I tell you now, if you don't do the work on yourself as a person, and that's your health and your mindset, you'll hit a ceiling. Regardless of how successful you are, you'll hit a ceiling. And that is when life starts to get really boring and plateaus. So I'm going to pass over to Mark. Right. Yeah, we'll wait till he gets around, because it's still going to be a good 5 minutes. But I just like to, listen everyone, I just want to make sure that this legend gets the credit he deserves when he comes down this track and finishes this event. He's done 10K, hasn't he?
Yeah.
10K.
And he's climbing Mont Blanc.
And look at that's inspiration right there.
Mont Blanc in the summer.
He's doing Mont Blanc in the summer. That is incredible. Absolutely. So let's make sure that when he comes down here, we let it rip. Anyway, it might be a little while yet. He wants it this. Why don't you stand on there? Go on. White shoes.
Believe it or not, I have been here before as well. Lovely to be here. Bit of a treat for me. I've got 2 young children, so I don't usually speak to adults on a weekend. I'll do my best though. Amazing stories from the speakers so far, and Ollie and I spoke about sharing our stories as well, but we thought what we'd do instead is a little bit of like, okay, great, well what are we going to do about it then? Like, how are we actually going to change? And we can take alcohol change and almost remove the word alcohol, and the topic really today is about change. So some of those stories, in fact all of them, brought up the same sort of point for me, and hopefully if you can glean from this something, it will help you understand why you might lean into drinking, or why you wouldn't, or why you might lean into any type of behaviour. So the 2 predictors of behaviour really are 2 emotions. One of them is the desire to feel pleasure. So hands up if you resonate with seeing in yourself a desire for feeling pleasure, which would change the way you might want to act. And that's individual, right? So however you define that for yourself, it could be ice cream, or it could be sex, or it could be money, or it could be whatever. So that's one big predictor, and start to observe this in your lives now, how that changes and influences your behaviour. The only other one that outweighs that as a predictor of behaviour is the need to avoid pain. So again, hands up who resonates with that. Speaking of someone who's been through a lot of pain today, stories, let's reflect on that a little bit. We all think we'll do dry January. We've smashed beers in December. It's an easy decision. We want to avoid the pain of the hangovers that we've had so consistently in December. Make sense? We do dry January, we get to where we are today, and we've got the pain then of missing out on all our social events and the other people we might be connecting with, and the version of ourselves that we are when we drink. So easy decision then to flip and avoid the pain of FOMO, or the fear of missing out on everything. So that makes sense as well, right? But we have to teach ourselves about ignoring this instant gratification, which is everywhere, and sadly our brains are trained into that way of thinking in the modern day. So pleasure and pain. The other thing I thought would be interesting to talk about with you guys today is a little bit more about identity as well. So you might have heard these sorts of things before, but if you want to go to the gym consistently, don't try to think of yourself as someone who's trying to get fit. Think of yourself as someone who's athletic, or as an athlete, or someone who loves the gym. It's an identity change and a framing that allows you to actually get past that negative frame of mind. Does that make sense? In the same way, today, how are we going to think about alcohol change? We're going to see ourselves as someone who isn't doing dry January. That makes it difficult when January finishes. But we're going to think about someone who doesn't need alcohol, or someone who identifies that alcohol doesn't serve them. That was my story. I had my child, my 3-year-old daughter, that was the trigger for me. And again, pleasure and pain. I noticed in myself that the hangover days, I wasn't the best dad I could be. And that started to become more painful than the joy of having a couple of drinks the night before. There's also a lovely little metaphor I'll share before I hand back over to Ollie, which is about the thermostat. So again, speaking about this topic of identity, we all set ourselves on the thermostat at a certain temperature. And this is in multiple things, from health, from money, to relationships, every aspect of our life. And if you think about the way a thermostat changes, if the door's open and all this cold air comes in, the thermostat will regulate itself and will reset itself at the temperature that you set it at, right? So you need to understand and be conscious of where you've set your inner thermostat or your inner GPS, depending on how you want to talk about it. But where have you set your thermostat for drink, for your health, for your relationships, for your money? And the thing that's deeply tied to that is your self-worth. So do you think that you're worth a better life, a healthier, fitter body, more money in the bank, better relationships? And they say the quality of our life is dictated by the quality of our questions. So what are the questions that we're asking ourselves? Thanks, guys. Pass over to you.
Thank you, Mark. That was amazing. Listen, we're almost there. I want to ask everyone here, and some people will be able to answer this and say yes confidently, and that's not, are you continuing your journey, but even for those that have really struggled and maybe had the odd drink here, there, but really want to give up, could you do something, and it's not drink related, could you do something for 30 days consistently? Could you? Yes or no? When it's slightly outside of your comfort zone. Now, I tell you what happened for me, I actually looked at myself, my life. I'm there trying to be, not trying, I'm being this pillar of strength for a lot of people, me and my wife, through our business BreakPoint. And I started thinking, when was the last time you actually did anything consistently? And the last time I did was when I gave up drinking. But really, since then, I've never done anything consistently. Yep, I work out quite often, but there's always the excuse. Oh, I'm going to London. Oh, I worked out hard enough yesterday. I've always allowed this inner sort of weakness to control my destiny. So I thought, right, I'm going to commit to something for 30 days. Obviously, I don't drink anymore anyway. So on the 31st of December, remember I said it starts with a decision, not a date, because I wasn't prepared to start something on the 1st. I said I'm going to do two things. First of all, I am stiffening up now. I'm getting quite an old boy, 53 years old. And I've always known that I needed to do yoga, something to loosen up and get a bit more mobile. But I hate it, it's freaking boring. I've done it before and I've given up because it's boring. But I assign value to it. And I thought, you need to push through that. You need to push through that. The second thing, because I got donated a very expensive ice bath and I've got to do it, I jumped in an ice bath every day. And I've done it every day since the 31st of December. Now, the majority of people out there on Instagram are jumping in an ice bath. They don't know why they're doing it. And when you've got something where you're pleasing the audience, you're doing it because you're pleasing the audience, it's short-lived. You stop getting the external gratification for it, and before you know it, you get bored. It has to be deeper than that. It has to be for you. And honestly, doing that, I'm day 20, what day is it today? 28th. So I'm 28 days in now. And honestly, it has changed me. It has changed me. And I no longer hear that voice in my head starting to steer me away from things. And this is what we're dealing with, right? There's no stronger driving force in each and every person on this planet than your desire for survival. Anyone disagree with that? Not how many followers you've got on Egogram. Laugh now. Not the house you got, the wife you got, the car you got. There's no stronger driving force than that desire for survival. And there's good things and bad things with that. Now, first of all, I learned that from an early age when I got nearly killed by a chimpanzee at the circus. A lot of people know that. I tapped into something there, that inner strength that we all have. We all have that inner strength. But the trouble is with that survival instinct, it wants us to keep on doing what we did yesterday and the day before that and the day before that. Because as far as our mind is concerned, it's kept us alive until today. It doesn't care if it's a good situation or a bad situation. It just wants to do the familiar because it's safe. So you have to start appreciating that. And you have to start living in the moment. We spend our lives fearing the future, regretting the past, and never living in the moment. And I really think this ice bath, this ice challenge, it changed me in 14 days. And I think all these things I'm going to send out, or we're going to send out something to everyone that signed up for this challenge. And we're going to give you a long list of micro challenges for you to do. We're also going to give you what's known as a habit tracker. Okay, so you can track it. You print off the documents, you do it, you write it down every day that you follow that. And ask yourself, through that, when you've chosen something, you put that into your habit tracker, ask yourself when your mind is telling you, oh, I'm too busy, I'm this, I haven't got time. I'll tell you what, failure's accomplice is time. Rubbish, you always have time. But when you do that consistently and work through that mind, work through the program, you start to change the person you are. And I'm saying now, the people that have struggled a bit, work on these other challenges first, micro goals first, and it will build your sense of belief, it will build your discipline, and when it comes to drinking, it'll be something you're able to smash. Honestly, alcohol will keep you small, and the soul needs to expand. It needs fuller expression. Alcohol will keep you small. And we're not going to get into conspiracy, but it's there for a reason. It's there for a reason to keep you small. Don't work with the program. Start to change who you are. Start to be the creator of your destiny instead of a victim of the past. Remember that. Who's up for that challenge? All of us. We all are. Last question, and I want you to ask this internally. Do I want to live a longer and happier life? Anyone? Anyone not? Honestly, there's no better inspiration for me and Laura and all of us who have made this event happen than to see people come up to us and go, it's changed my life. Thank you so much. And that's been incredible. I just want to hand over this gentleman. I don't know what he's going to say, so if it's bad, we'll cut the mic. But anyway, I want to hand over. But I'd just like to say thank you. You're all going to disappear soon, but if you want pictures with people and stuff like that, just please feel free. And then one thing I'll say is your rubbish and stuff like that, if you can just throw that in the bins before you do leave. And thank you so much.
Thank you. So my name is Richard Biber. I work for Alcohol Change UK. I've had an amazing run today. I've still got very wet feet, which is amazing, and I'm enjoying it. I think it's more pleasure than pain. I'm here to simply say thank you. I want to thank BreakPoint and Ollie and Dean and Laura and everybody everybody here who's made this event possible. We are a tiny charity trying to attack an amazing, massive, huge problem. Alcohol is the 5th biggest cause of death in the UK. We're about the only charity working on this. We've got a team of 28 people. So anybody who's given anything today, whether it was just an idea, a smile to someone else, or even some money, we are so grateful, and we're incredibly grateful to BreakPoint for putting on today this event. It's been absolutely fantastic for us as a small organisation. There are 5 ways to well-being, as you probably know. The first of those is notice. I think those of us who wandered around this course, whether we were going fast, slow, or kind of my pace, we noticed what a beautiful place it was, noticed the sunshine and the mud. Like, you can even notice mud and appreciate it. So we've all noticed today. We've connected. Loads of people here have talked to each other and got to know people. I had a lovely chat with Paul running around. Hello, Paul, my finish line buddy. So we connected. That's fantastic. We've learned. We've had some incredible speakers. Thank you so much for putting the line of speakers on. So we've all learned some stuff that way to where we move. Has anybody moved today? Yeah, maybe not for the last half hour, but certainly a lot of us have done a lot of exercise and moving today. And of course, the 5th and final way to well-being is give. So again, thank you so much for those of you that give. It costs £1.50. £1.50 for us to take someone from the start of dry January, a heavy drinker, from the start of dry January through to a period of 6 months where they've got control of their drinking, whether that's not drinking at all or completely in control of their drinking. £1.50 per person. That's a tiny amount of money to save a life. So if you want to save a few lives today, go for it. Give us a little bit more. Thank you. Thank you. Amazing charity. So like I say, if you haven't put any money to that charity, please make sure you do so. We will send out the links again after this event. Just a big thank you. You guys are amazing. We love you and we see you again. Thank you.